I just know when I first heard from everybody in Roku Sports and everybody with Roku and the Roku channel that this deal had been struck, they were jacked up about it. Why did you hook up with Roku?
So the Formula E, founded 10 years ago,
Yes.
Wanted to be the preeminent motor racing sport in the world, which is challenging when you've got so many sports like IndyCar over 100 years old,
Yes.
Formula One 75 years old. And there are two big markets you've got to crack. So one of those is North America. The other one is China, fastest growing EV market in the world. And we wanted a home. We wanted a home for Formula E in North America. And that means finding one outlet that we can go all in on. And we started speaking with Roku, I think about 18 months ago, something like that. I got talking with David. The teams were gelling well together. They wanted to dip the toe into live sport. And I think personality-wise, we just fit. Very agile, flexible, quite young, quite disruptive. So we gelled and we thought, let's give this a go. And I think we're a year in now, and so far going brilliantly.
Yeah, you're referring to Dave Eilenberg, whose
yeah.
last name also starts with an A.
It does. And David actually used to work at ITV. Obviously a great traditional UK broadcast, although he was based over here in the US. And,
right.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved with Formula E racing?
So my history, half of my life in automotive. So I worked for Ford Motor Company when they owned Volvo many years ago.
Okay.
And then I worked for Honda. And then I left and thought I've left cars behind me, went into media telco. But the owner of the company I worked at was Liberty Global, who were also the largest shareholder in Formula E. And they persuaded me that this would be an exciting adventure to take with them. And they've been right. I mean, I'm a year in, and so far, other than spending most of my life on an aeroplane, other than that, they're right. It's just super cool.
And it's just, again, obviously in this day and age where, things are getting hotter, and that's literal, or wetter, or more of a climate uncontrolled situation, the fact that this is carbon neutral is what it is pretty sweet.
Yeah, net zero from day zero.
Look at you.
That kind of works. I should use that.
Did you just
add that to a marketing?
You didn't just make
poster.
that. You didn't just make that.
No, of course not. I've got an army of people sitting back in London writing this stuff for me.
Net zero from day zero.
Yeah.
Could you say that about our show as well? Are we net zero?
Well,
are we're churning out a lot of content? I don't know.
We're net infinity, really.
Thank you. Oh, my bad.
Since day zero.
Yeah, I should have said that.
Yeah.
And so that's awesome. And so just explain to everybody, how, for who may not know, how fast these cars go.
Oh well, so the cars are in their third generation. So in a 10-year history of the sport, and when we started, I'm going to be honest.
Yes, sir.
The performance of the cars wasn't great. This was more about testing the concept of can you race an electric vehicle. Capped out about 140 miles an hour. Got to 60 miles an hour in about 3 and a bit seconds. So not incredible, not for a racing car. So where we are now, we launched our next generation car in Monaco this year. That will get to 60 miles an hour in about 1.8 seconds, 30% faster than the Formula One car. Goes over 200 miles an hour and does all of that net zero.
And how competitive are the car companies right now to come up with a fourth generation right now and go ahead and do that?
So it won't surprise you. Fourth generation is 2 years away for us. So
Yes,
that
sir.
car is pretty much baked. So we know what's coming in the fourth generation.
You do know what's coming.
Yeah, look, I won't talk about it because it's a little bit secretive at the moment. But
Understood.
As you can imagine, it gets faster, the power goes up, the batteries last longer. So that fourth generation car will be unbelievable in just 2 years' time. It will be unbelievable. But the car manufacturers we work with, Porsche, Jaguar, Nissan, we work with Stellantis, huge global car manufacturer, Mahindra, the Indian brand. We got 2 racing royalty brands in the US as teams. We've got Penske, we've got Andretti. So they're all inputting into this, and we work pretty closely with the FIA, who govern us, and the biggest and brightest brains on electric vehicles working on it.
I imagine so.
Yeah.
Because my wife and I talk about all the time about, getting off the grid and things of that nature.
Yeah.
I've been driving an electric car for about 6 years now.
Yeah.
So I've been off the grid for a while, but we're waiting to get more options, just as somebody else, just as somebody driving around, going the speed limit, of course.
Yeah. Oh,
hands at 10 and 2, all that good stuff. Not looking at our phones. That we're eager to get electric vehicles in certain brands and certain cars, and it's like it's not going to happen for 2, 3, 4 years. And I'm sitting here thinking about this is what could potentially unlock the technology and the race, if you will, the speed race in the similar way that we've seen films like Ford versus Ferrari or anything like that back in the day, that car companies get real serious about being innovative to be first.
Yeah,
you know?
Completely right. Look, we're a platform to talk about sustainability.
Yes.
But our racetrack is a laboratory. And that's where car manufacturers go out and they test next generation technology that will go into their road cars. And, you know, there's 100 stories I could tell you, but one I love personally.
Please.
So Jaguar learned something on the racetrack about how the powertrain, the motor, so the engine effectively, interacts with the battery. And that they worked out they could make that more efficient with a coding change by changing some of the coding in the software, which they did, and it worked. And then they did that coding change over the air to everybody who was driving an I-Pace on the road, and those cars got 30 kilometers more range, literally from a software change. So they're learning things on the racetrack and it's going straight into the road car. And obviously there are markets that are leading the way in this. So in the Chinese market today, China, over 100 million fans of our sport in China. I mean, the development of electric vehicle technology in China is unbelievable.
How about that? And on top of all of that, though, you got to have the drivers, right?
Yeah.
And so I'll give you the floor a little bit here on the personalities, because that's another way to get a sport.
The team,
people hooked on
where
it.
the team meets the driver, meets the racetrack, is where the magic happens.
Nice.
And obviously, the broadcaster is what shows that to the world.
Yes.
But you want a racetrack that can show off the potential of the car. Now that could be big and open like Portland or Miami will be. It could be tight, shorter, a tougher test of the driver. Something like London, Tokyo was like that. We raced in Tokyo for the first time, and then you're relying on the skill of the driver and the skill of the team. And I would argue, and I include Formula One in this, that as a collective, we have 22 drivers on the grid, that they are the best 22 drivers in the world. You've got ex-Formula One drivers that will go to Formula One. You've got Super Formula from Japan winners. You've got Le Mans winners on that grid. As a collective, you have the most unbelievably competitive group of drivers.
And you give me a couple names of people that they should look to see this weekend.
Well,
and I know you're the CEO, and you're the CEO of all the drivers.
Yeah,
I understand
exactly.
that.
I can't have favourites, but I can certainly point you in directions. So you've got the drivers who are leading the championship. So Nick Cassidy. Nick Cassidy's leading for Jaguar at the moment. Nick famously won the Triple Crown in Japan. So when we raced in Tokyo, he's like royalty when he steps off the plane in Japan. Absolutely one of the best racing drivers ever raced in Japan. And it's kind of been the second place for driver for many years in Formula E. Nearly won it, not quite made it, but leading the championship by 25 points as we go to Portland. He's leading from Pascal Wehrlein, the Porsche driver, German driver, unbelievable driving talent. Started the season incredibly hot, started last season incredibly hot, then it's gone through a period where it's got a bit tougher for him, but he's bang right there in second place, ready to take charge. And then you've got other drivers, Mitch Evans, again, very famous Jaguar driver, Ollie Rowland, who's on a bit of a comeback tale, driving for Nissan this year, very sharp-elbowed, very aggressive driver on the racetrack. So they're the kind of top four you see. And then we've got some of these wonderful, I'll say old stagers, they'll hate me for it, but we've got some wonderful old stagers. We've got Lucas de Grassi heading towards 40, been there from the very beginning. We've got Jean-Eric Vergne, ex-Formula One driver, only driver to ever win the series twice, racing for DS Penske. Sam Bird won in Sao Paulo this year, races for McLaren Racing, been around from the very start of the championship. So you've got this real mixture of the professors and the students all racing together. Incredibly competitive, close combat racing. We go into every race thinking we know who should do well on a particular racetrack and being surprised at every race.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.